Lisa Martinez looked out the curved window of Europa Station at the vast, dark expanse of space. Jupiter loomed large in the distance, its swirling storms visible even from here. She straightened her blue uniform and checked her tablet one more time. The Vraxian delegation would arrive in less than 30 minutes. "Nervous?" asked Ben, her co-worker at the diplomatic office. "A little," Lisa admitted. "This is the first time Vraxians have visited our station. Their reputation isn't exactly friendly." Ben nodded. "Just remember, you were picked for this job because you're good at it. 5 years of working with aliens, and you haven't caused an interplanetary incident yet." Lisa smiled. "Thanks for the vote of confidence." Her tablet beeped with a message. She tapped the screen and Jack's face appeared. Her heart lifted at the sight of her partner's warm smile. "Hey there," Jack said, his voice slightly distorted by the transmission delay from his ship. "Just checking in before we go on radio silence for the patrol." "Good timing," Lisa said. "The Vraxians arrive soon. Wish you were here instead of out there on the Intrepid." Jack's expression softened. "Me too, but the patrol should only take 2 weeks. Keep those diplomats in line until I get back, okay?" "I'll do my best. Stay safe out there." "Always do. Love you." The screen went dark as the transmission ended. Lisa tucked the tablet away and took a deep breath. 2 weeks until Jack returned. She could handle the Vraxians until then. An hour later, Lisa stood in the docking bay as the Vraxian ship connected with the station. The massive metal doors slid open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. 5 tall figures stepped through. Lisa had seen pictures, but nothing prepared her for Vraxians in person. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, with gray-blue skin that seemed more like armor than flesh. Each had 4 muscular arms and eyes that glowed yellow in the station's artificial light. The lead Vraxian wore elaborate decorations on his upper shoulders. This must be Commander Kiztik. Lisa stepped forward and raised her hand in the universal greeting gesture. "Welcome to Europa Station," she said clearly. "I am Lisa Martinez, diplomatic liaison for the Earth Alliance. We are honored by your presence." Commander Kiztik looked down at her. His upper set of arms remained crossed while his lower right hand made a dismissive gesture. "This station is smaller than we were told," he said, his voice deep and rumbling. "Where is your superior? We do not deal with assistants." Lisa maintained her professional smile. "I assure you, Commander, I have full authority to assist with your needs during your stay and to begin our preliminary discussions." The Vraxian made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Humans send their females to greet us. Perhaps your species is not ready for meaningful alliance after all." Several nearby station personnel stiffened at the comment. Lisa had been prepared for this. Intelligence reports indicated Vraxians often tested new contacts with deliberate insults. On Earth, and throughout human colonies, all genders serve in all positions based on ability, she explained calmly. "I was selected for my expertise in interspecies relations and my knowledge of Vraxian customs. Would you prefer I arrange for someone else?" Kiztik stared at her for an uncomfortable moment, then made a gesture with his upper right hand that Lisa recognized as reluctant acceptance. "You will do for now," he said. "Show us to our quarters." As Lisa led the delegation through the station, she noticed how other aliens moved aside quickly. The Deltans, usually relaxed and friendly, went completely still as the Vraxians passed. The Mareth traders, normally bold, lowered their eye stalks in deference. Lisa sent a quick message to station security requesting additional monitoring. Something about Commander Kiztik made her uneasy. His eyes followed her with what seemed like contempt. She thought of Jack, out on patrol in the darkness of space. 2 weeks suddenly felt very long indeed. The next morning, Lisa stood outside the conference room and checked her notes one final time. She had spent half the night studying Vraxian customs to avoid any major mistakes. The diplomatic meeting was scheduled to last 3 hours, but Lisa suspected it would go longer. "Ready for round 2?" Ben asked as he handed her a cup of coffee. "As ready as I'll ever be," Lisa said, taking a grateful sip. Commander Kizdik made it clear yesterday that he doesn't think much of humans. Ben leaned closer. Word around the station is that the Vraxians only agreed to these talks to assess our weaknesses. Be careful in there. Lisa nodded and entered the conference room. The 5 Vraxians were already seated, taking up much more space than needed at the oval table. Commander Kizdik didn't stand when she entered, another small sign of disrespect. "Good morning," Lisa said as she took her seat. "I trust your quarters were comfortable." "They were adequate," Kizdik replied. "Though the gravity settings are too weak, humans prefer to live in such light conditions. Our station maintains Earth-standard gravity," Lisa explained. "We can adjust the settings in your quarters if you wish." One of the other Vraxians, who Lisa identified as Science Officer Zrel, leaned forward. "Tell us about your defenses. How many warships does Earth maintain in this system?" Lisa smiled politely. "I'm sure you understand that specific military information isn't part of our initial discussions. Today's agenda covers trade opportunities and cultural exchange." Commander Kizdik made a sharp clicking sound with his mouth. "Cultural exchange. What could humans possibly teach Vraxians? Your species has been space-capable for barely a century. Ours has ruled the stars for millennia. Every species has unique perspectives to share," Lisa replied evenly. "For example, humans have developed adaptation techniques that allow us to thrive in environments from desert to Arctic. Our art forms. We did not travel across 50 light-years to discuss human art," Kizdik interrupted. "The Vraxian Empire requires resources. This moon has water ice in abundance. We propose a simple arrangement. We take what we need, and in exchange, we do not consider your presence here a challenge." Lisa kept her expression neutral despite the thinly veiled threat. "Europa's resources are under Earth Alliance protection by Galactic Treaty. We're happy to discuss fair trade terms, but..." "Treaties." Kizdik slammed one of his 4 hands on the table. "Treaties are for species of equal standing. Your kind barely registers in galactic politics." The tension in the room grew thick. Lisa took a deep breath and replied, "Perhaps that was true in the past, Commander. But after the Morgosi conflict, the Galactic Council recognized Earth as a full member. We now have the same rights as the Vraxian Empire under interstellar law." Kizdik stood up, towering over the table. "The Morgosi are weak. Their defeat proves nothing." The meeting deteriorated from there. By midday, Lisa's head throbbed with tension as she escorted the Vraxians to the station's main dining hall. Her tablet beeped suddenly. Looking down, she saw a message from Fleet Command. "Intrepid returning early. Engine malfunction requires dock services. ETA 72 hours. Lisa felt a wave of relief. Jack would be back 3 days from now, not 2 weeks. She missed him. And frankly, she could use his steady presence with the Vraxians pushing boundaries at every turn. In the dining hall, she watched as Commander Kizdik intimidated a Tellarate trader into giving up his table. Other species moved away, creating a bubble of empty space around the Vraxians. "They're testing us," said a quiet voice beside her. Lisa turned to see Nima, the station's security chief. "I know," Lisa replied. "But why?" "Rumor has it they're expanding their territory, looking for weak points." Nima's eyes narrowed. "Just be careful. They're known for provoking incidents to justify their actions." Lisa watched as Kizdik stared directly at her from across the room, all 4 of his arms flexing in what she recognized as a Vraxian display of dominance. 3 more days until Jack returned. She hoped the station would remain peaceful until then. By the 3rd day of negotiations, the atmosphere in the conference room was tense. Representatives from 3 other species had joined the talks. A pair of blue-skinned Adarans, a tall Xularian elder named Voss, and a delegation of small, furry Pintari. All had trading interests in the Jupiter system. Lisa entered the room and noticed Commander Kizdik already speaking with the other aliens. When he saw her, he stopped mid-sentence. "The human arrives at last," he said. "We have been discussing more efficient arrangements for resource distribution." Lisa set her tablet on the table. Any discussions about Europa's resources must include Earth representatives, as per Section 4 of the station charter. The Adirand representative nodded. We were just explaining this to the commander. Kiztik made a dismissive gesture with his lower arms. Your rules are inefficient. Vraxians take what they need. Not here, they don't. Lisa said firmly. Europa Station operates under Galactic Council laws. The room grew quiet. No one had directly challenged the Vraxians before. Elder Voss, the Xilarian, watched Lisa with new interest in his three eyes. Lisa activated the display in the center of the table. Today we need to discuss water rights and processing. The Earth Alliance proposes equal access to. Equal? Kiztik interrupted. There is nothing equal between your species and mine. The Vraxian Empire controlled 100 systems before humans learned to make fire. Lisa kept her voice level. History isn't relevant to these negotiations, Commander. Current galactic law treats all spacefaring species as equals. And who enforces these laws when we choose to ignore them? Kiztik stood up, using all his height to loom over the table. Your ships, your weapons. Humans have nothing that could stop a Vraxian cruiser. The Pinteri delegation shuffled nervously in their seats. The tension in the room rose as Kiztik continued. We have studied your species since your first steps into space. Humans are weak, soft. You lack natural defenses. Even your ships show your weakness, built for comfort rather than war. Lisa stood her ground. Commander, this aggressive posturing isn't productive. If you want to discuss a fair trade agreement, we can continue. If you're here to make threats, this meeting is over. You dare to dismiss me. Kiztik's yellow eyes narrowed. A human female thinks she can tell a Vraxian commander when to speak. Elder Voss raised a hand. Perhaps we should take a brief recess. No, Kiztik snapped. I will not be silenced by lesser beings. He turned back to Lisa. Your species will learn its place in the galaxy. Europa's resources will belong to the Vraxian Empire, and humans will serve as we direct. Lisa picked up her tablet. This meeting is adjourned until you're ready to negotiate in good faith. I suggest you review the Galactic Charter, Section 12, regarding threats against member worlds. As she turned to leave, Kiztik moved with surprising speed. He grabbed her arm with one of his lower hands. You do not walk away from a Vraxian, he growled. Lisa pulled her arm free. Don't touch me, Commander. That's your only warning. The other aliens watched in shocked silence. No one had ever seen someone stand up to a Vraxian like this. Warning? Kiztik laughed. You warn me. This is why your species will never be respected. Lisa faced him directly. Respect is earned through actions, not intimidation. Earth didn't gain its place in the Galactic Council by bullying others. Something snapped in Kiztik's composure. With a roar, he swung one massive arm. His fist connected with Lisa's face, sending her crashing into the wall. She slid to the floor, a trickle of blood running from her nose. The room erupted into chaos. The Pinteri fled, squealing in alarm. The Adirans called for security. Elder Voss stood frozen in shock. Kiztik looked down at Lisa with contempt. Now you understand the natural order. What he didn't see was Lisa tapping an emergency signal on her tablet as station alarms began to wail. What he didn't know was that the entire incident had been recorded and was already being transmitted throughout the station's network. And what Commander Kiztik couldn't possibly understand was that the message had also reached a certain ship that was now just hours away from docking. News of the attack spread through Europa Station like wildfire. By the time Lisa was released from the medical bay with a bandaged face and mild concussion, everyone had seen the recording. Station security had confined the Vraxian delegation to their quarters while Director Paddle, the highest-ranking human on the station, contacted Earth for instructions. Lisa sat in her small office, holding an ice pack to her swollen cheek. Ben stood nearby, clearly upset. You should press charges, he said. What Kiztik did violates at least 3 sections of the Galactic Charter. I know, Lisa replied. Director Paddle is already handling the diplomatic fallout. Earth Alliance headquarters is furious. Her tablet beeped. A message appeared. Intrepid requesting emergency docking. ETA 45 minutes. Lisa's heart raced. Jack was coming home early. She hadn't been able to contact him directly since the incident, but clearly he knew what had happened. In the station's busy central plaza, aliens of various species gathered in small groups, discussing the attack. Lisa walked through them, aware of the stares and whispers. Many moved aside respectfully as she passed. Elder Voss approached her, his three eyes blinking in what Lisa recognized as a sign of distress. "Human Lisa, I must speak with you." "Elder Voss," she greeted him. "I'm sorry our negotiations were disrupted." The tall Xilarian lowered his voice. "The Vraxians are planning something. After you were taken to medical, I overheard Kiztik speaking with his officers. They view this incident as an opportunity, not a mistake." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. "They believe that by attacking you and facing no immediate consequences, they have proven humans are weak. They are considering a show of force against your station." Lisa frowned. "That would be an act of war." "Vraxians often push until they meet real resistance," Voss explained. "In all my 200 years, I have never seen anyone stand up to them as you did, but they will not respect your kind until you prove your strength." Before Lisa could respond, her tablet beeped again with an urgent message. "Intrepid docking now. Security requested in Bay 3. "I need to go," she told Voss. "Thank you for the warning." At docking Bay 3, a crowd had gathered to watch the Intrepid's arrival. The Earth vessel was small compared to the massive Vraxian ship docked nearby, but its sleek design spoke of advanced technology. Lisa pushed through the onlookers as the airlock opened. Jack was the third person to exit. When he saw Lisa's bruised face, he stopped in his tracks. His expression changed from concern to something cold and focused. Captain Rivera of the Intrepid walked directly to Lisa. "We received the transmission. Are you all right?" "I'll be fine," Lisa said, eyes still on Jack. "But the situation is complicated. The Vraxians are confined to quarters, but Elder Voss just warned me they might be planning something more aggressive." Jack finally approached. Unlike his usual warm greeting, he simply studied her injuries with careful attention. "Who did this?" he asked quietly. "Commander Kiztik of the Vraxian delegation." Lisa answered. "Jack, I need you to stay calm. Earth Alliance is handling this through proper channels." Jack nodded once. "I understand channels." His voice was even controlled. Too controlled. Nearby, several aliens watched with interest. A small Pinteri whispered to its companion. "That is her mate, but he's so small compared to a Vraxian." "Size isn't everything for humans," replied a Deltan observer. "I served with humans in the Morgosi conflict. They're different when provoked." As station security arrived to escort the Intrepid crew to their quarters, Jack spoke quietly to Captain Rivera. The captain looked surprised, then concerned, but eventually nodded. Lisa caught Jack's arm. "What are you planning?" "Nothing that isn't allowed," Jack replied. "I'm just going to request a formal meeting with Commander Kiztik." Something in his tone made Lisa shiver. She had never seen this side of Jack before. Director Patel's office was unusually crowded the next morning. Lisa sat next to Jack, while Captain Rivera stood by the window. On the other side of the room, two security officers waited quietly. "This is highly irregular, Mr. Miller," Director Patel said, looking at Jack. "You're requesting to invoke Protocol 227B. That hasn't been used in over 30 years. The protocol exists for exactly this type of situation." Jack replied calmly. "A diplomatic representative was physically assaulted. The charter allows for personal challenge as an alternative to formal sanctions." Lisa touched Jack's arm. "This isn't necessary. Earth Alliance will handle Kiztik through official channels." "Which could take months," Jack said. "Meanwhile, the Vraxians learn they can attack humans without immediate consequences." Director Patel sighed. "Mr. Miller is technically correct. The Galactic Charter does allow for personal challenge in cases of diplomatic assault. But challenging a Vraxian, they're 3 times your strength with twice the number of arms. I'm aware of Vraxian physiology, Jack said. Something in his tone made everyone in the room look at him more closely. Captain Rivera cleared her throat. Director, you should know that Jack Miller isn't just a security specialist. He's been part of the Human Adaptation Program for 7 years. Lisa turned to Jack in surprise. The HAAD? You never told me that. Jack looked at her apologetically. It was classified. Director Pottle leaned forward. The Human Adaptation Program. Isn't that the military initiative to study alien species and develop countermeasures? That's part of it, Captain Rivera confirmed. After the Morgosa conflict, Earth realized we needed to understand how to defend against physically superior species. The HAAP trained specialists in adaptive combat techniques. Lisa stared at Jack, seeing him in a new light. Her quiet, thoughtful partner had always been fit, but she'd never imagined him as some kind of specialized fighter. How many Vraxians have you studied? Director Patil asked. 17, Jack answered. We have full physiological profiles, combat pattern analysis, and weakness evaluation. The room fell silent as everyone processed this information. I still don't like it, Director Patil finally said. But if you're determined to do this, I can't legally stop you. The challenge must follow proper protocol. An hour later, Lisa watched nervously as Jack prepared a formal challenge message. Are you sure about this? She asked. I've never been more certain, Jack replied. His eyes focused on his task. Lisa, what Kiztik did wasn't just about you. He's testing all of humanity, seeing how far he can push before we push back. But why you? Why not let Earth send someone? Because I'm here now, Jack said. He finally looked up at her. And because he hurt you. The formal challenge was delivered to the Vraxian delegation's quarters by a station security officer. The response came back almost immediately. Commander Kiztik accepted, with the combat scheduled for the following morning in the station's main arena. News of the challenge spread quickly. Aliens from all parts of the station requested permission to witness the event. Many placed bets on how quickly the human would lose. Your mate has courage, Elder Voss told Lisa as they watched Jack prepare in the training room. But courage alone will not defeat a Vraxian warrior. There's more to Jack than people realize, Lisa said. Perhaps, Voss replied. But consider this. In all my years traveling the galaxy, I have seen many species face the Vraxians. Few survive the experience. That night, Lisa couldn't sleep. She watched Jack as he sat quietly on their bed, eyes closed in meditation. What are you thinking about? She asked. Jack opened his eyes. Pressure points, weak spots in Vraxian armor, the exact amount of force needed to break their balance. Lisa shivered. This methodical, calculating side of Jack was unfamiliar. I won't lose, he said, sensing her worry. Humans may not be the strongest species in the galaxy, but we've always been good at one thing. What's that? Lisa asked. Jack's expression was calm but determined, adapting to overcome. The station's central arena was originally designed for sports and recreation. Today, it served a different purpose. By morning, the viewing areas were packed with aliens from every species on Europa Station. Word of the human challenge had spread beyond the station, with several ships requesting emergency docking just to witness the event. Lisa stood next to Director Patil in the official viewing box. Her hands were cold with worry despite the warm room. This is unprecedented, Director Patil said quietly. I've never seen this much interest in a human event. Lisa nodded. They all expect to see Jack lose. Do you? Lisa watched as Jack entered the arena from one side. He wore simple black training clothes, no armor or protective gear. He looked small in the vast space. No, she answered finally. I don't. From the opposite entrance, Commander Kiztik appeared. The Vraxian was enormous, his gray-blue skin gleaming under the lights. He wore minimal armor on his chest, leaving his 4 powerful arms free to move. The crowd grew louder as he raised his arms in a display of confidence. The station's AI announced over the speakers, "This combat follows Protocol 227B of the Galactic Charter. The challenge will continue until submission or until medical sensors indicate critical injury is imminent. No weapons are permitted." In the center of the arena, Jack and Kizitik faced each other. The size difference was striking. Jack barely reached the Vraxian's chest. A human challenging a Vraxian. Kizitik's voice boomed across the arena. "Is this courage or stupidity?" Jack didn't answer. His face remained calm, focused. "Begin," announced the AI. Kizitik didn't waste time. He charged forward with all 4 arms ready to grab Jack. The crowd roared in anticipation of a quick end. But Jack wasn't there anymore. He moved at the last second, not a desperate dodge, but a calculated step that left Kizitik grasping at empty air. The Vraxian turned quickly, surprised. He swung again, a powerful blow that would have ended the fight immediately if it had connected. Again, Jack moved just enough to avoid it, his movements efficient and precise. "Stand still and fight." Kizitik growled, launching a series of attacks with his multiple arms. Jack continued to evade, studying his opponent. The crowd grew quieter, watching with increasing interest. This wasn't going as expected. "The human is unusually fast," Elder Voss commented from nearby. "It's not just speed," Captain Rivera replied. "It's calculation." He's learning Kizitik's patterns. Frustrated by his inability to land a blow, Kizitik became more aggressive. He lunged forward with all his weight behind the attack. Jack finally engaged, using the Vraxian's momentum to redirect him into a stumble. The crowd gasped as the massive alien nearly fell. No one had ever seen a Vraxian thrown off balance by a smaller species. Kizitik recovered and turned, his yellow eyes narrowed with anger. "You are just delaying the inevitable, human." Jack spoke for the first time, his voice even. "No, I'm showing you what humans do." He moved forward now, entering Kizitik's reach deliberately. The Vraxian smiled, thinking his opponent had made a mistake. He grabbed for Jack with his lower arms. Jack struck with precision, a sharp blow to a point just below Kizitik's right shoulder. The Vraxian's lower right arm suddenly hung limp and useless. A murmur ran through the crowd. The human knew Vraxian weak points. "What is this?" Kizitik demanded, surprise and pain in his voice. "Adaptation," Jack answered simply. He circled the larger opponent, his movements controlled and deliberate. "Humans study. We learn. We find ways to overcome." Kizitik roared and attacked again, using his remaining 3 arms in a flurry of blows. Jack blocked one, evaded another, and took a glancing hit from the third that sent him sliding across the floor. Lisa gripped the railing in front of her as Jack got back to his feet. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead, but his eyes remained focused. "You will submit," Kizitik declared. Jack wiped the blood away. "Not today." The fight entered its second phase as both combatants circled each other more cautiously. Kizitik had learned not to underestimate the human, while Jack moved with the focused precision of someone executing a plan. From the viewing area, Lisa noticed how Jack watched the Vraxian's movements, analyzing each shift in posture. "He fights like no human I've ever seen," remarked an Adaran diplomat standing nearby. "That's because most humans don't fight like this," Captain Rivera explained. "Jack isn't trying to match strength with strength. He's treating this like a puzzle to solve." In the arena, Kizitik launched another attack, this time more controlled. He used his 3 functioning arms in coordination, trying to trap Jack between them. Jack ducked under one swing, blocked another with his forearm, but the third caught him across the chest. The blow sent him tumbling backward. The crowd roared as Kizitik pressed his advantage, charging forward to finish the fight. But as he reached Jack, the human rolled smoothly to his feet and struck again. Another precise hit to a vulnerable point, where Vraxian nerves clustered near the surface. Kiztik's upper left arm spasmed and went limp. 2 arms down, Jack said quietly, circling again. His breathing was controlled despite the exertion. The Vraxian was visibly shocked. "How do you know our weaknesses?" he demanded. Jack didn't answer, maintaining his focus as they engaged again. This time, he moved inside Kiztik's reach, targeting joints and pressure points that the Human Adaptation Program had identified through years of study. Elder Voss leaned toward Lisa. "Your mate fights with knowledge, not just strength. This is unprecedented." Lisa nodded. "That's humanity's real advantage. We don't just adapt our technology or our environment. We adapt ourselves." In the arena, Kiztik was growing desperate. He had never faced an opponent who could neutralize his natural advantages. With 2 arms disabled and the human showing no signs of tiring, the Vraxian commander resorted to a desperate lunge. Jack sidestepped and used Kiztik's momentum against him, guiding the much larger alien to the ground with a precise application of leverage. Before the Vraxian could recover, Jack applied pressure to a specific point at the base of Kiztik's neck. The arena fell silent as the massive alien went completely still, his remaining arms frozen in place. "Neural lock," Captain Rivera explained to the stunned observers, a technique developed specifically for Vraxian physiology. It temporarily paralyzes their motor functions without causing permanent damage. Jack stood over Kiztik, whose eyes were wide with shock and confusion. "Do you yield?" Jack asked calmly. The Vraxian commander struggled against the paralysis, but couldn't move. "This is impossible," he growled. "No human should be able to defeat a Vraxian." "That was your first mistake," Jack replied. "Assuming what humans can and cannot do." He maintained the pressure point. "Your second mistake was hurting my partner." The Station A's voice announced, "Commander Kiztik is unable to continue. Victory is awarded to the human challenger." A moment of stunned silence fell across the arena, followed by a wave of excited conversation. Nothing like this had ever happened in living memory, a human defeating a Vraxian in hand-to-hand combat. Jack released the pressure point, allowing Kiztik to slowly regain movement. He offered his hand to help the alien up. The Vraxian stared at the offered hand, confusion evident in his yellow eyes. After a moment's hesitation, he accepted the help and rose unsteadily to his feet. "You could have killed me," Kiztik said quietly. "That wasn't the point," Jack answered. "The point was to show you that humans aren't what you thought we were." In the viewing area, Lisa watched as the crowd's attitude shifted. Aliens who had previously dismissed humans as weak were now looking at Jack, and by extension, all humans, with new eyes. "Something important just happened here," Director Patel said. "This isn't just about one fight." Lisa nodded. "It's about perception. And I think humanity's just changed dramatically in the eyes of the galaxy." 3 days after the challenge, Europa Station buzzed with a new energy. Aliens who had previously avoided humans now approached them with curiosity. The recording of Jack's victory had spread beyond the Jupiter system, reaching distant worlds and sparking conversations about humanity's place in the galactic community. Lisa sat in the observation lounge, watching Jupiter's swirling clouds through the large window. Jack joined her, sliding a cup of coffee across the table. "How's your face?" he asked, studying her healing bruises. "Better," she replied. "How are you?" "Medical said you had 3 cracked ribs." Jack shrugged. "Nothing serious. The HAP training included accelerated healing techniques." Lisa shook her head with a small smile. "I'm still getting used to this new side of you. 7 years in a classified program, and you never said a word." "I wanted to," Jack admitted. "But some things are kept secret for a reason. If species like the Vraxians knew how much we've studied them, they might see it as a threat." Lisa finished his thought. "I understand." Their conversation was interrupted as Director Patel approached their table with Elder Voss and, surprisingly, Commander Kiztik. The Vraxian's arms were still healing, one in a sling, another moving stiffly. Lisa tensed, but Jack remained calm. "May we join you?" Director Patel asked. Jack nodded, and the three took seats. An awkward silence followed until Commander Kizitik spoke. "I have come to offer formal apologies," he said, his voice lacking its previous arrogance. "My actions violated diplomatic protocol and dishonored both our species." Lisa studied the Vraxian's face. His yellow eyes showed genuine regret, something she hadn't thought possible. "I accept your apology, Commander," she replied formally. Kizitik turned to Jack. "You could have killed me in the arena. Many would say you should have. In Vraxian culture, mercy is rarely shown." "That's not how humans operate," Jack said. "At least, not how we try to operate. Winning was enough." Elder Voss leaned forward. "This event has created quite a stir among the Galactic Council. Many species are reconsidering their assessment of humanity." Director Patel nodded. "We've received 14 requests for alliance negotiations in the past 2 days. Species that previously ignored us are suddenly very interested in human cooperation, and Vraxian leadership has recalled our delegation." Kizitik added. "They wish to establish more respectful relations with Earth." Lisa looked at Jack, understanding the broader implications. His victory wasn't just personal. It had shifted the balance of power throughout human space. Later, as Lisa and Jack walked through the station's garden section, they noticed how other aliens responded to their presence. Some nodded respectfully, others watched with new interest. "You've become something of a celebrity," Lisa teased. Jack looked uncomfortable. "That wasn't the goal." "I know, but it's changed things for all of us." She stopped by a small fountain. "The Pinteri ambassador told me that 3 other species have requested information about the human adaptation program. They want to send representatives to Earth for training." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Really? That's unprecedented." Lisa smiled. Apparently fighting smart instead of fighting strong made an impression. As they continued their walk, a group of young Vraxians approached cautiously. One stepped forward, clearly nervous. "You are Jack Miller?" the young Vraxian asked. "The one who defeated Commander Kizitik?" Jack nodded. "I am Zrel, Junior Science Officer. I am authorized to ask if you would consider teaching some of your techniques to our junior officers. We wish to learn human adaptability." Jack looked surprised, then thoughtful. "I'd need proper authorization, but yes, I think that could be arranged." As the young Vraxians walked away, clearly excited, Lisa squeezed Jack's hand. "From diplomatic incident to cultural exchange in less than a week," she observed. "Not bad." Jack looked out at the stars visible through the garden's glass ceiling. "Humans have always been good at turning obstacles into opportunities. It's how we survived on Earth, and it's how we'll find our place out here." Lisa rested her head on his shoulder. "I think we already have."